Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sports Time. Darius and Aiden. I am Darius Adams, and thank you for joining us here today as we continue our 2024 NBA playoff preview series. And in today's episode, we're discussing the Denver Nuggets facing off against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and this is going to be an incredible series as both of these teams split the season series at two apiece. And to just recap the first round of the playoffs, as we know, the Nuggets completed the gentleman sweep versus the Lakers, and the Nuggets sent the Phoenix Suns into a offseason full of plenty of unanswered questions as they swept them 4-zip. And if I had to make my prediction right now, I would have to go with the Timberwolves winning this series in 7 games and advancing to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since Kevin Garnett's MVP season back in 2004. Now, I do have to apologize to the Nuggets because I suffered from recency bias in the first round as I picked the Lakers in 7 games, right? And I could not have been more wrong. We saw plenty of inconsistency from D'Angelo Russell, and we saw incredible performances from LeBron and AD. But at the end of the day, Darvin Ham got out coached, and we saw the Denver Nuggets play championship level basketball, and they were able to weather the storm game in and game out every single time. They came back from 20, they came back from 10, and they completely demoralized this Lakers team that entire first round series. You could not have asked for a better series from LeBron or AD, and the Nuggets still found a way to completely to send them into an offseason where they're already making plenty of changes with the firing of Darvin Ham, etc. But from the Nuggets standpoint, in this series, I do believe that this will be a huge series for Michael Porter Jr. Right, and we saw in the first round he averaged 23 points per game to go along with Jamal Murray's 23 points per game, and to go along with Jokic's triple double as he averaged 28, 16, and 10. If the Nuggets have any remote chance of dominating games versus this elite defense in Minnesota, they're going to have the same offensive production on a consistent basis from MPJ. And Alka Michael Porter Jr., he is a rare breed here in the NBA. You can't find a guy this versatile who can shoot the ball over elite defenders like a Jaden McDaniels or like Anthony Davis or LeBron James. And he had an incredible first round series. And regardless of how you see it, Michael Porter Jr. was really the X factor versus LA. And I do believe he will have a huge series versus Minnesota. But I cannot ignore the fact that we've seen some injury concerns is for this Nuggets team, especially revolving around Jamal Murray and KCP. We saw KCP get injured, I believe that was like game 5, that last game of the series versus LA, and he did not look the same. He did not look like the same player. He only shot 28% from three in that series, so he was really struggling. Hopefully he has time to heal up and have a great series because they will desperately need him. We also saw some injuries to Jamal Murray. Now, although that did not impact his play at all because he was making game winners game in and game out, I do believe that will definitely play a factor, especially when you're going to have to possibly switch on to Anthony Edwards and being able to possibly be the primary defender against a shifty guard in Mike Conley who has thrived in these situations before. These injury concerns are definitely something that I can't ignore for the Nuggets. But at the end of the day, I know they still have Nikola Jokic, and I know he will eat versus Rudy Gobert. Barbecue chicken alert. He had a great series versus AD. Once again, he averaged 28, 16, and 10. But I do believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves have more options from a rotational standpoint, and we will get into that. When I look at my biggest concerns for the Nuggets going into this series, it has to be one, the injuries. Of course, like I mentioned, the KCP and Jamal. But number two, it has to be the lack of offensive bench production. Now, I do have to give my props to Christian Braun and Peyton Watson because going into the LA series, I did believe they would not have the same impact that Brucey B and Jeff Green had last season in that championship run for the Nuggets. But they played their part. We saw them come off the bench and provide a lot of energy. And the games that were played at Denver, they really did provide a lot of energy, a lot of great plays from a hustle standpoint on both sides of the ball for the Nuggets, but I can't ignore the fact that they were getting that score by LA. There were times where the offense looked very stagnant when Jokic or Jamal wasn't on the floor. And I don't believe that Christian Braun and Peyton Watson are guys that can just consistently get you buckets. And when you're going up against a team like Minnesota, where easy buckets and points are so hard to find, that is a problem. And I think that is a huge concern for Michael Malone. And you may be asking too much for Jamal Murray and Jokic, especially considering that Jamal Murray is definitely not 100%. He almost sat out game 5. Let's not forget that. So that is a huge concern. That is a huge concern for me personally. And the fact that you need to match their offensive production, I don't think they're able to. I don't think they're capable of doing that, especially in this series. Now let's move on to Minnesota. When I looked at the stats for the Wolves versus the Suns, it was two phrases that came to mind for me. One was deep rotation. Number two was complete dominance. The way that this Minnesota Timberwolves team was able to match up and completely neutralize Bradley Beal, KD, and Devin Booker, it was incredible. That's something I've never seen before in my many years of watching basketball as a fan. When you have three of the best offensively skilled players in the game, you were I was under the assumption that, hey, one of those guys are gonna go off. One of those guys are gonna get this team going. But at the end of the day, let's not forget that this team is the best defense in the league. And when I made my prediction for last round, I said Suns of 6. I said, hey, they don't need a point guard. This team was built to win a championship. And at the end of the day, the Timberwolves exposed every single problem within that organization. They showed the importance of having a true point guard, in that you just can't throw a bunch of guys together and think that this will work. Defense matters, facilitating matters more than star power. And this is the epitome of Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. They have everything they need in order to contend and possibly win a championship this season. And look at that series versus Phoenix. They had 6 players in double figures and had 31 points per game, but he also had 6.3 assists. Karl-Anthony Towns coming off of an injury where he missed around 20 games to close out the season. He averaged 19 and 10. Rudy Gobert, the guy that I believe wouldn't stand the chance being switched on to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, he averaged 15 and 11 in that series. And if we're going to go deeper into just those three alone, I'm looking at Anthony Edwards, complete dominance from him. And like I mentioned, he averaged 31 points per game, 6.3 assists. I'm not really worried about the points because I know this man has blossomed to a superstar and one of the best players in our game. I am more surprised at the fact that he averaged 6.3 assists. He has turned into a facilitator. He has been molded into a elite all-around offensive player. And if Michael Malone is going to put like KCP on him, who should be considered for all the defensive team, I don't believe he stands a chance. And it has he has the physical advantage. He's like 20. He raised 20 pounds more than KCP, and I just believe that Ant has been unstoppable. And I don't believe if you put Aaron Gordon or KCP or Michael Porter Jr. on him, it won't change a thing. He will still give you buckets. I believe Ant has arguably been the best player in the entire playoffs, and I believe he will continue to thrive, especially at the pace that he's going. Let's move on to Cat. When I made my prediction versus Phoenix, I said that I don't believe he will be able to come back and play playoff level basketball. It's a different intensity. It's a different pace. It's a different brand of basketball overall. And he came back and played 2 games at the end of the season. I just didn't believe that that was enough time to get back to get that type of play style under your belt. I think you needed more time than that, and I didn't believe that Cat was ready, and I couldn't have been more wrong. This man shot 53% from three, man, and he showed no signs of that injury at all. That's even considering the fact that he missed almost 20 games. I believe the Cat versus Aaron Gordon matchup would definitely be something to watch. And I do believe the Cat will continue to thrive with all the attention that Denver and Michael Malone is going to be able to throw at Ant. That will leave easy, wide open opportunities for Cat. Of course, we all know he can shoot the ball at elite clip, but he can also get to the paint at will. If we're going with the matchup with Cat versus Aaron Gordon, I'm taking Cat 9 times out of 10. That's with all due respect to AG. I just don't believe Aaron Gordon. We really stand a chance versus Cat, especially considering the other defensive assignments that he will be responsible for, with possibly being switched on at the end and maybe even Rudy at times in the post. But the one thing that really stands out in this series, once again, is the deep rotation. We touched on it with Denver, but with Minnesota, it's a different brand. Naz Reid, the sixth man of the year, only averaged 9.5 points versus Phoenix. He will have a phenomenal series versus Denver. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he gave you 12.7 points per game versus Phoenix. We haven't even gotten to Mike Conley yet, and he doesn't need to score in order to be productive. He can shoot the ball at a high clip, be a catch and shoot. He can get into the post. He's one of the best facilitators in this game, and I believe the most veteran experience out of anybody in this series. We know his play style going back to his days in Memphis and with the grit and grind, because and Zach Randolph and Allen. Now he's here and he's thriving in this role, and he's done an exceptional job this season. I believe role players are key. It's key. I really, really do believe that. And going down this roster, I just see nothing but advantages in Minnesota's favor. Nikola Jokic will have a phenomenal series. I do believe that. I do believe that Jamal Murray will continue to thrive. But at the end of the day, this Minnesota Timberwolves team is as scary as ever. It's a team that can knock you down defensively. It can still put points up on the board. They can push the ball in transition. They can knock down the three ball. They have a guy who is playing out of his mind right now in Ant. And nobody in this league right now has a chance of stopping him right now. Cat is playing at a high clip. Naz Reid will play better. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, if he continues at this pace, they're averaging like around 13 points per game. It will be a tough time. If I'm Michael Malone, I can't allow 6 players on one team to get the average double figures. That's completely insane to me. And Chris Finch has done a phenomenal job. But the one thing I do need to preach to my team right now is that you cannot be complacent. If you get out with a lead, if you go into halftime with a lead, if you push the boundaries, if you maintain a solid lead throughout this series, you will win. I don't believe the Minnesota Timberwolves are anything like the Lakers. I believe they are more disciplined when it comes to maintaining leads. I think they will be more disciplined when it comes to containing Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic to be the pick and roll. I believe that they will be more disciplined when it comes to not allowing open corner threes and allowing Michael Porter Jr. to get the ball and get easy buckets at will. The Denver Nuggets will have a very, very hard time versus Timberwolves, and I'm really interested to see what will happen here in Game 1. If the Timberwolves can go back to Target Center in Minnesota and split the series 1-1, and have a 1-1 series, I think I would be perfectly okay with that. Game 1 will be pivotal for this series. And if I'm Chris Finch, I'm preaching I'm preaching to Cat, I'm preaching to Rudy that we have to come out strong and play at a high level and establish our dominance. If we do that, the Timberwolves will win the series. But with that being said, I have Timberwolves in 7. And thank you all for joining us here. We will have more content on the way. And this has been Sports Now. Until then, peace.